Hello, Internet. It is June 30th here in Chicago. They just concluded Pride festivities because of the rain, and I was driven indoors, although the rain has stopped now. I was driven indoors, but I got to see most of it. Anyway, that is not why I am here talking to you today, showing you this little fowl. I am here because I went to the Burbs yesterday and visited the oh so wonderful Hauserman Orchids out in Villa Park. Huge, sprawling complex, and it was a bazillion degrees. And so I tried to go as fast as I could, and I brought home some little friends. Not all of these are from that haul, and that was actually the reason for the haul. Is some of these are plants that I flowered. One of them I've had for at least a year and a half now, maybe a couple years, and I wanted to try to cross it. I've gotten very interested in pollination, hybridization, seed propagating, flasking, most of which I know nothing about, and I have only pollinated so far an orchid. I have not flasked anything myself. I've bought some flasks, which I'm going to be deflasking soon. But I had a plant come into flower that has been such a reliable flowerer. I thought, hey, why not try to cross that? And that is my rustic spots. I don't know what the name of the hybrid genus is now. I think it's a BLC, RLC, so Brassolaeliocattleya or Rancolaleocattleya rustic spots. The key in its ancestry here is that it has Richard Mueller in its background. So I think that's Brassavola nodosa crossed with formerly Laelia, I think, now Cattleya Milleri? And I might be getting that wrong, but anyway, the Brassavola, very white to creamy or greenish white flower, shaped pretty much like this, on a plant that has pretty much this habit, and is very, very night fragrant. And then the red parent is a true orangey red, small flower, on I think a very tall upright spike. I don't know how many flowers it is known for having, that species. But the product, the Richard Mueller, is known for changing color. If you look at this bud, it is a sort of it looks slightly more purple on camera, but basically that. It's a sort of a brick color, and the flowers do pretty much open that color. This one's already lightened a little bit, but they open pretty dark. And then over a number of days, they gradually fade to their permanent yellowish color. So this one, Rustic Spots, has, I think, Cattleya calandiae in its background, way back somewhere, because it's Richard Mueller crossed with another, probably intergeneric hybrid. So I don't even pretend to know the genus of this anymore. I just know it's in the Cattleya Alliance, and it's got a lot of influence from the Brassavola parent. But anyway, the calandiae is the reason that Rustic Spots has its spots, and you see the spots they pretty much stay there. But it's pretty cool. I like that when you have these flowers open of different ages, the ones that were open first have already become pretty yellow, and then the newer one still has a lot more of that red color. I think the first time it flowered for me, I understood the initial color to be a more solid, kind of a brick-y wine kind of color. Not dark. It was still, I guess, suffused over the yellow. And my only guess here is that it has something to do with the changing acidity of the flower rather than some, change in gene expression um, in the tissue, such as might, maybe I would, again, not a biologist, but um, my understanding is that the spots are the result of a difference in the gene expression of the tissue there. I could be totally off about that. But the flower changing color, I believe, is the result of changing, or at least I'm no, I'm postulating that it's the result of changing acidity. So anyway, really interesting flower, changes color, blooms for some people up to 4 times a year. I mean, it can really go, and it's been a very consistent bloomer for me. Before I had everything under my really hot lights, it would bloom at least twice a year. After putting it under lights, I've had some of the new growths either dry up and blacken as just a short growth, or they will mature, but then the leaf will just sort of fall off, dry up and fall off. So something about that high heat and low humidity, something about probably my inconsistent watering is doing that. But anyway, otherwise, really robust plant. And I thought, it's in flower now. I've had success pollinating one Cattleya type orchid before. The something like 11 or so crosses I tried to make that were all vandaceous just did not take. Whereas I'm batting 500 on my Cattleya crosses. One blasted, one took. So I figured I'd try again. Hence, I traveled to the burbs yesterday and got myself some orchids to cross with this. So let's just go in order here. I knew I wanted something, because this is a pretty small flower. I don't know, 2.5 inches, maybe, I guess we could call that a 3. Pretty small flower. For all the interest it has, it's small, and that's okay. But then I thought, what would happen if we took this color changing ability and just tried to make it a larger flower? There's another one of these Richard Miller crosses that has paler color, not quite so much spotting. But I thought, I would be okay with a paler flower that changes color, that is bigger. So let's think about how we can do that. We would need a bigger Cattleya flower. And I went to the nursery yesterday, and George, if you're watching, you can probably tell this is a species. This is Cattleya gaskeliana. Pretty big. I haven't measured, but it's a good, what is that, do we think? 6 or so, maybe more. That's big, and that's huge. The petals aren't necessarily super, super full like you would find with a very hybridized Cattleya, but it's pretty decent size. And so my feeling here is I can take this and make this the papa plant and have my rustic spots be the mama plant. But with so many flowers on here, there's no reason to limit myself to just that cross. I could try to cross something else. I obviously don't want to try to make more than one pod on one plant. That's asking a lot of anything to do that. So what could I take the pollen from another one of these flowers? Maybe one that is the newest one is going to be most likely to receive the pollen, so one of these older ones could still be a pollen donor. And I thought, well, okay, let's get another Cattleya. It would have to have smaller flowers because the pollen tubes would have to reach all the way into the ovary. And if the ovary is huge, it might not, do much. So I thought, okay, well, it looks good. And there was another orchid that had really, really dark. I mean, this is, you can't quite tell because it's coming out a little more extreme on camera. This is still a little bit, it's got the wine color, but it's suffused over cream. It's not 100% saturated. It looks darker on camera than it is. Let's take something darker. They had a dark brick or wine red one, and I thought, okay, that might work. Flower only slightly larger, so okay, decent chance of pollination actually working. But let's look around, and I thought that plant might have been virused, so I passed on it. And then I saw this, and oh my god, that is red. That is so red. And it's bigger. So they may not receive the pollen successfully. The flowers have also been open, it looks like, for a while. I can't tell if this is thrip damage or virus, but I thought with this color, I don't so much mind. So I figure I'll try to make this one work. I'll see if I can get, pollination to take on any of these flowers. My hope is that it works. Who knows? I have no clue. But the color was just so intense. I saw it from a few miles away. I mean, and that greenhouse is packed, and it's not everything is at the exact same level in the Cattleya area, so you can't see everything all the way across the room. This really stood out like a sign, like a fire hydrant. So I'm going to use that as a mommy plant, with this as the daddy. You'll notice that is not the only thing I have on the table. I was showing you phals a second ago. The nursery I bought these two lovely plants at is Hauserman Orchids in Villa Park. Cannot endorse them enough. Super huge, very knowledgeable staff, and a lot of them, so you're not just wandering around hoping to bump into somebody. I've asked pollination questions and care culture questions, and they've been stellar. But there are Orchid Society had a sort of summer potluck / party / shopathon at Nat's Orchids, which is where I purchased this. Now I gotta tell you, I love me some Renantheras. These are looking a little sad right now. Not as sad as the dying plants and the windowsill behind it. But they're looking a little bit tired. That's okay. They've been open for a good week or so. So we'll see what I can salvage from this. Some buds not open yet. Okay, fine. We'll see what happens. But I thought, okay, I've got this. And the color is just outstanding. Red is not super common with orchids. With Renantheras, it's fairly common, but with most orchids, it is not. This super hybridized, like you would not find that in the wild. There are some Cattleya Alliance things that are red and reddish, but not a lot. But I thought, okay, let's get some stuff. Let's try again with the Vandaceous crosses. Don't give up so easy, Dave. So I'm going to try to take, you look at all the flowers, there's a lot of opportunities to take pollen. Obviously, one pod per plant. I would only want to pollinate one flower, but I can remove pollen from multiple flowers. And I decided what's Vandaceous. Phals and Vandas. Phals. Phals. This one's a little bit taller, even though it's got small flowers. That'll be fun. And Vandas. Look at this. A grapey. It looks slightly bluer on camera than it really is. It's more of a true purple. But it is only a little bit less dark than it appears on screen. That looks really blue. It's not that blue. It's really not. It's a Crayola purple. Let's see if I can get the color correction. Nope. Gigantic flowers. So I thought, let's make some crosses. Use this as the daddy plant, mostly, and try to pollinate, see if any of this takes. Super doubtful, but then I thought, okay, I know for sure Renantheras will cross with, not necessarily phals, I have no idea, but I know for sure they will cross with Neos. Neophinacia or Vanda, I don't care. Your taxonomy is wonderful. We love your biology work, people, but you make us crazy. This is a Neophinacia, at least for now. Um, I'm making a fuss because Neophinacia was recently lumped into Vanda. So I'm going to try to take some pollen from my red Renanthera and cross it onto this Neo and see what I get. I had some special motivation to do that. I do have a Neo Renanthera cross already that is, it has a Renanthera-like habit, Neo-shaped leaves, but it will bloom several times a year. I noticed that rather than blooming 4 times a year, like once every season, it will bloom 2 or 3 times in one season in like spring, and then like once in summer and once in fall. They'll tend to be clustered rather than just blooming once every season. Like one spike will finish and dry up, and then it'll set out another, which is fine. I don't need it to be. I mean, this is a spectacular like display, and if this were an even larger plant making even more spikes, you'd have a whole cloud of white flowers, and you've got a specimen at that point. I'm not there yet. I don't need that to happen that bad. I don't need that to happen that bad with this, but if I can approximate that behavior again, I absolutely will. I have a tremendous value. I value tremendously any plant that'll bloom that many times a year. Doubtful that this will happen with this, but we'll see. The cross has to even work. Although, now that I'm filming, the Renanthera flowers are looking awfully tired, and that now being guarded by a cat, but that purple Vanda is an awfully tempting cross to make with this. It would be weird and really neat if it worked. And you're going to have to bear with me for just a moment. This isn't my fault. This is... don't eat that. You're a good kitty. You don't eat the plants. Yes. Okay. Off, down. Time to get down. Down. Yeah, down. So that's the gist of what's happening here. I don't quite have it finalized yet, what's getting crossed with what. I would love to pollinate these with that Renanthera, although there's a decent chance that they won't take because, look at the ovary on that. It's huge, and then on the Renanthera, it's about the same length, actually. It might take, but it's still a long shot. And it's, distant enough genetically that there's a high chance that it won't work. So anyway, rambling is over. This is just a highlight of my haul and the plans that I have for it. Hopefully something works. Real quick, last but not least, shout out. I know it's laying down. Don't panic, it didn't fall. I just let it down because it was top heavy. Spencer Aloysius gave me this in bud, and it is now in flower. I almost just crossed that with that, but then I thought, why have one? Why build one when you can have 2 for twice the price? Okay. Anywho, video over. Have fun, internet people. Stay out of the rain. Don't be like me.